butterfly in the sky. I can go twice as high. Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow. I can go anywhere. Friends to know and ways to grow, a reading rainbow. I can be anything. Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow. A reading rainbow. A reading rainbow. A reading rainbow.
A butterfly in the sky. I can go twice as high. Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow.
I can go anywhere. Friends to know and ways to grow, a reading rainbow. I can be anything. Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow. A reading rainbow. I can go anywhere. Friends to know and ways to grow, a reading rainbow. I can be anything. Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow. A reading rainbow. A reading rainbow. A reading rainbow. A reading rainbow.
Good morning, everybody. Silent Shuffle, done being first. Hello. Frederick, good morning. Emissary, how you doing? Yeah, get that report in, please. No hacking in this stream. Only reading. You're so eepy? You having trouble sleeping? You woke up at 5 a.m. It is 2:36 a.m., so you're coming up on 24 hours awake. You should sleep. I read a book today. I will do the book club. You read the whole book? You rule. I ordered the socks. 1-day shipping. They should be here today. I literally cannot remember the last time I stayed up past midnight. I couldn't even if I tried. I've gotten a few in past midnight in recent years, but I always pay for it dearly the following day. But as far as like 24 hours awake, I don't even know, man. I stay up past midnight all the time, but I'm not awake longer than like 18 hours all that often. Yeah. You finished the book. You ordered the socks. I read the book. Now, important. I got to the Blaviken section. Yeah? You gotta wear the socks day. What? Is that the deal? I don't remember that part of the. Hold on. Did I sign something without reading the fine print? I gotta wear the socks day one? Alright, this is important. I need people who have worn the socks to tell me. Like, when can I expect maximum shedding? I wanna wear the socks and then have, like, less shedding to deal with, like, on a. Actually, I don't know. Do I wanna deal with the shedding on a day off or a work day? Coelacanth, how you doing? I've got you on my second screen. I may want to read this book one day, so I want to avoid spoilers. Yeah, don't spoil yourself. It's a phenomenal book. Did you read any of it? I was thinking maybe start with some general topics, and then we could get into like just going through the tales individually. That's the nice thing about this book is that you can just sort of deal with one individual tale at a time. There is like an overarching framing device and a sort of bit of progression within those. Like interstitial chapters, but overall these are kind of individualized tales. When you get them, you can't weasel your way out of this. I'm not weaseling out of anything. We're going to be shedding together. I don't know. You're already shedding, right? You got to wash them first. Shedding lasts like 5 days. Well, it depends on how much skin you need to shed. I've known it to last almost 2 weeks for some people. I think I might be one of those. I think I've told y'all, like, I had a Hobbit phase. I've gone like barefoot hiking. I revel in the foot calluses. They're hard earned, so those socks got some shit to deal with. They got some work to do. All right, so welcome to the April Book Club, the first monthly book club. We read The Witcher: The Last Wish. I loved it. Anyone just want to start, like, how did you enjoy the book? We could start with just a very generalized question. Who liked it? Who liked the book? Great book? Hell yeah. The packaging of the ones I got said you can expect shedding to start after around 5 days and last around 5 days. Okay. Okay. Any favorite stories in the book? Any favorite tales in particular? Okay, I'm trying to get my personal reading notes, but not obscure chat. Let's get them here. That should do. That should do. My favorite part is Yennefer, but The Last Wish was not my favorite story. I might agree with that. I find that... okay. The camaraderie and the growing relationship between Geralt and Dandelion. Everything with Yennefer, and then, Renfri? How are we saying that? How are we saying that? This is going to be a stream of me pronouncing fantasy things poorly. Very poorly. Renfri. Abrupt. I love the story. I thought Abrupt was a very compelling character. Those are my three favorite relationships. I think as a tale... As just a tale, I'm really torn. A Grain of Truth was incredible. The Lesser Evil because of Renfri. Lesser Evil might be your favorite. That one was the most interesting, like, in terms of Geralt's character and the conflicts he was dealing with. I thought A Question of Price was just like a great, like, functioned as like a great fairy tale. Mr. Red-Eye. Does your hair smell like chamomile? I wouldn't know. I don't have a sense of smell. I like to hope it does. How you doing? Thanks so much for coming. Thank you so much for subscribing. 19 months. Your legend will never die. Thank you. It's the perfect encapsulation of the books and games, in my opinion. Well, let's get into some of the stories then. Okay, so should we start with just The Witcher? If anyone has any excerpts they want to talk about, so I had like a couple things I pulled out. Some of these, I feel like I started sharing stuff in the Discord to get the conversation rolling. It didn't roll, so I just decided to save everything for today. So I'll just start skipping through, and if anyone had something they liked in this story in particular, this is where Silent Shelf fell off, The Witcher tale, and I can see why. I think it's a good, like, judging the collection as a whole, I think it's probably the weakest story because there's not a lot of depth to it, but I think it's a great initial, like, foray into the world. It's full of action, and you get, like, a lot of character of Geralt through just, like, this struggle against the Striga. And so I think it's a good hook, but there's not a lot to it to really talk about. A lot about destiny, but also about what part of destiny is nature and nurture. Yeah. I had low expectations for the race, but I was still disappointed. What disappointed you? Yeah, I was curious. Like, what were you expecting? What else did you want? You really like the first paragraph of The Lesser Evil? All right, do we want to, y'all want to talk about one tale at a time? Then we can sort of work within the same sort of range of pages. Anyone have anything about the first story? And then we can talk about, if that sounds good to y'all, then we could jump to A Grain of Truth, Lesser Evil, Question of Price. I mean, we could talk about some of the interstitial chapters too, but I don't really have a lot on those myself. They were interesting, but I feel like the bulk of everything is within the actual stories. Not that those aren't stories. So yeah, like, I'll just start with the synopsis to refresh everyone, or for those who didn't read it but are just hanging out anyway. So in The Witcher, Geralt travels to the city of Wazim to free a princess who is cursed to become a Striga, a monster that hunts people at night. To fix the princess, Geralt needs to trap her outside of her sarcophagus through the entire night. After a ferocious fight, Geralt uses his magic to stun her. A few hours later, he finds her unconscious outside of her sarcophagus. She slashes Geralt's throat just as morning arrives and the curse breaks. And this sort of sets up the framing device of Geralt, like, recuperating throughout the rest of the stories and, like, flashing back to these events in the past. They weren't even shirtless, complete garbage. Was Runfrey the result of the Black Sun or the things that were done to her? In a fantasy world where curses and prophecies are real, it is an actual question, not just a moral about maybe not treating people like shit, though that is also part of it. Yeah, I think that comes up again and again. It comes up in A Question of Price as well, with, like, the bonds we make, our word is bond, and, like, you get the sense of, like, a lot of these things having actual magical properties, but also, like, how much of it is just social convention that is so strong that we couldn't possibly think of defying it. Whether we imbue it with a sense of supernatural or it actually contains that within it, at the end of the day, like, if it functions as such, I don't know, it's an interesting thing to think about, but, like, if we imbue it with that level of importance and treat it as an unbreakable bond, then it essentially is. Like, and I think Alan Moore talks about this kind of stuff too, about, like, language being magic and what it's able to conjure. I want to get this out of here. For the first tale, where did I have? I was looking for stuff I highlighted. Yeah, there's not, like, I don't have anything deep about this one. I thought it was just some really good writing. And, like, I wasn't really familiar with this creature, and so I thought it was a good build-up of, like, letting my imagination sort of run wild. So when we're, like, being told about it, it's up to you, but remember my advice. As we're talking of the reward, there has been word recently about the second part of it. I mentioned it to you, the princess for a wife. I don't know who made it up, but if the Striga looks like the way they say, then it's an exceptionally grim joke. Nevertheless, there's been no lack of fools racing to the palace for the chance of joining the royal family. 2 Princess Shoemakers, to be precise. It was that one combined with, that was like a setup for, let's see. Can it happen to her again later on? Geralt was silent. Aha, said the king. It can. And what then? Should she die after a long swoon lasting several days, her body will have to be burned quickly. I just think, like, this book again and again, this sort of encapsulates it. There are better examples later on, but, like, gradually drip feeding lore and aspects to some of these creatures and the greater world, and it comes up organically in conversation, and I'm not over-explained anything, and it lets me fill in the gaps and wonder about the monstrosity of this creature. Like, that's a very compelling, creepy line. Like, why? What's going to happen after several days? Her body has to be burned. And then the one line quickly. I thought it was very good. In a world with curses and prophecies, it brings free will further into question. The people are destined to be assholes. Yeah, cursing someone can be done without magical talent, and the law of surprise seems to bind the destinies of people together. But free will is real. No one can see the future perfectly, in my opinion at least. Yeah. And we're given these moments with, like, pivotal, important choices. Like, that story with Runfrey, it's a serious conflict for Geralt. Like, what is he going to do in this situation? And if everything is preordained, it takes some emphasis off of that decision, like what he does in that situation. I don't know if I had much else here. I thought the scene of, like, the Striga actually coming out was very well written. He sat motionless, his eyes closed, his breathing at first even, suddenly quickened, becoming rasping and tense, and then stopped completely. The mixture which helped the Witcher gain full control of his body was chiefly made up of veratrum, stramonium, hawthorn, and spurge. The other ingredients had no name in any human language. For anyone who was not, like Geralt, inured to it from childhood, it would have been lethal poison. I think, like, just the previous point I was making, we're gradually getting information about Geralt. We don't really know his whole deal yet. Like, if you've played the games, you obviously do, but, like, for me coming into this world and not knowing much, I think it's a very good gradual reveal of, like, what's going on with this guy? Like, what is his background? What was his training? How is he made? Like, words have a ton of power in the Witcher universe. Yeah, we see a lot of aspects, or a lot of examples of that in these stories. Being unable to perceive the future doesn't negate the certainty of destiny. Misinterpretation becomes confused for autonomy. which makes the question more interesting in worlds like these. That's a good point. Another question is, if destiny is real, or if prophecies are spells that change how people behave, was it set in stone, or did the words of the prophecy change things? Yeah. We don't really get any answers, do we? Or, I mean, I don't know. Did you think we found some answers to that question? I thought this was a great excerpt, a great passage. Ostrid did not hear the scrape of the tomb lid being moved aside, but the Witcher did. He leaned over and, with his dagger, cut the magnate's bonds. Ostrid did not wait for his word. He jumped up, numb, hobbled clumsily, and ran. His eyes had grown accustomed enough to the darkness for him to see his way from the main hall to the exit. The slab blocking the entrance to the crypt opened and fell to the floor with a thud. Geralt, prudently behind the staircase balustrade. I should have paid. Should have paid. I already paid for Apple Music, but thank you, Yellow Rocks, for giving me the idea to go searching for music that won't get my stream, my VOD muted. We're in the middle of something here. Thank you. Okay. Saw the misshapen figure of the Striga speeding swiftly and unerringly in the direction of Ostrid's receding footsteps. Not the slightest sound issued from the Striga. A terrible, quivering, frenzied scream tore the night, shook the old walls, continued rising and falling, vibrating. The Witcher couldn't make out exactly how far away it was. His sharpened hearing deceived him, but he knew that the Striga had caught up with Ostrid quickly. Too quickly. Great contrast of like his abilities. You're still getting to know him and like what he's capable of, and just a very good, creepy, tense scene with like building tension there. Thought that was great. Hey Sushi, what's going on? In my humble opinion, I think The Witcher would be better if they had guns. Yeah, one thing they're missing. More explosions, please. Wasn't enough. I think they do touch on it a lot more in later books. It's been a while, but I do think that's one of the big recurring themes. Oh, have you read all these books? Well, I mean, it's pretty big here, but yeah. Like, was Geralt destined to become a Witcher before his father was saved by a Witcher who invoked the Law of Surprise? Or did the Law of Surprise make that his destiny and everything that comes after? We know words have power, so people using their free will might be what shapes destiny. I like to look at it that way, and I think a question of price, that story is so tense. And I felt like everyone's action had such weight to it. Like, I was on the edge of my seat, like, the wrong word here can throw this whole banquet situation into chaos. Like, it is of the utmost importance that everyone does and says the exact right thing in this moment. And I want to believe that, like, yeah, these words, like, they decide destiny, so to speak, but, like, in that moment, everything's up in the air. We don't really know which way we're going to go here. I don't know if I had much else for this story. Let's see. Might have been it. Yeah, I think that was it. Anyone have anything about The Witcher? Like I said, I thought it was a good intro story, and I think the strength of the rest of the collection makes it better than it is on its own. It's not a bad story. It's just sort of like a Welcome to The Witcher kind of action-oriented tale to give you a sense of like what this guy is, what he does, the kind of world that he is existing in. And I think on that metric, very good. I think it's a perfect first little story. I agree. Yeah. Nothing much, just here to say something stupid before I go to bed. Bring it on. All comments welcome. And I can't say anything about it because I read the books in German, and I think that changes some aspects in the German version. If you have any takeaways or ideas, comments from the German version that you read, I would love to hear them. I would be curious if there's anything changed on a major level. I don't know how to pronounce this. I thought this is the one thing that was interesting in this interstitial Voice of Reason chapter. Is it Melitel? Melitele? Melitel. Good way to show that the people of the world are bigoted in multifaceted ways. You're from Rivia and a Witcher? Yeah. Yeah, focalizing through Geralt and just like seeing how people respond to his presence and like his appearance. We learn what a Witcher is, how he hunts monsters, how people view Witchers, lots of other incidental stuff about the world, and ends up with Geralt being mortally wounded. Yeah, I think totally agree. It's great on all those metrics. on like a philosophical level or like a memorable character interaction level. No, it doesn't have that going for it, but it's because it's doing these other important things to set up. And because it's such a good setup, those other tales, you can just jump right in and get to the good stuff right away because you've had this introduction. The mortal wound comes after a fight where he doesn't seem to be in great danger at any point. He has to restrain himself. That's a good point too. Yeah. And he still wins. The cult of Melitele was one of the oldest and, in its day, one of the most widespread cults from time immemorial. Practically every pre-human race and every primordial nomadic human tribe honored a goddess of harvest and fertility, a guardian of farmers and gardeners, a patroness of love and marriage. Many of these religions merged into the cult of Melitele. Time, which was quite pitiless toward other religions and cults, effectively isolating them in forgotten, rarely visited little temples and oratories buried among urban buildings, had proved merciful to Melitele. She did not lack either followers or sponsors. In explaining the popularity of the goddess, learned men who studied this phenomenon used to hark back to the pre-cults of the Great Mother, Mother Nature, and pointed to the links with nature's cycle, with the rebirth of life and other grandiloquently named phenomena. Geralt's friend, the troubadour Dandelion, who enjoyed a reputation as a specialist in every possible field, looked for simpler explanations. Melitele's cult, he deduced, was a typical woman's cult. Melitele was, after all, the patroness of fertility and birth. She was the guardian of midwives. And a woman in labor has to scream, apart from the usual cries, usually promising never to give herself to any bloody man ever again in her life. A woman in labor has to call upon some godhead for help, and Melitele was perfect. And since women give birth, and will continue to give birth, the goddess Melitele, the poet proved, did not have to fear for her popularity. I kind of just like this because we are aware of it in our world, you know, like you can look at Christianity and see the roots of like pagan tradition and how they change over time and get brought into this new religious framework and reinterpreted, and we just have that again and again through all of the world religions. And I like when fantasy stuff also gets into that and like adds depth to the religious practices and the fundamental myths and structures of their universe and where these things originate and why they continue. The fight with the Striga is also used as the opening for the first Witcher game. Yeah, that was cool. Like I had just played like a few hours of The Witcher, and then to start this book, like, oh hey, that's this, and I can see why they used it. It's, you know, like paying homage to the initial tale here. I know this wasn't the first published book, and then also it's pretty good, just like we were talking about, situation to open with. But then a simple mistake is all it took. Witchers are ultimately flesh and blood. That's one of the strongest aspects to it, right? It's like you don't, like I was pulling out the excerpt, like it's creepy. You get the danger. You get the sense of danger and the tension, but then you also like think like this probably isn't the most dangerous thing that he's faced. And then just one wrong move and yeah, the claws just will tear through his neck, and he almost dies. And so you do get a sense of his strength and his power and his experience, and then also his mortality in that tale. If you put it in the real world, then Geralt would be Italian. Yeah. Hey, Meowly, what's going on? How's it going? It's going great. How you doing? We are doing the first book club on The Witcher: The Last Wish. So we're going through the tales just like in the order in which they appear in the book. We're about to get to one of my favorites. I loved this exchange with Nenneke? If I'd played more of the games, I would be probably doing a better job of reading these names. What's a book? It's kind of like a game with a lot less interactivity. Like it's the story part, and you have like two screens, but they don't move. And there's a lot of the screens, and they're made out of paper, and then you put them between like two thicker screens that sometimes have like a still image, and you just look at it and hallucinate for hours. He spends the whole rest of the book recovering between stories. Right, yeah. Yep. So choose your own adventure book. You can choose a little bit with this one. You can't choose any of the events, but you can choose how you think about them. Without the choose. Don't you think, he smiled, that my lack of faith makes such a trance pointless? No, I don't. And do you know why? No. Nenneke leaned over and looked at him in the eyes with a strange smile on her pale lips. Because it would be the first proof I've ever heard that a lack of faith has any power, any kind of power at all. I thought that was a great line. That's all I have to say about that. I loved A Grain of Truth. Anyone have any particular thoughts about this story? This is the first story, like, okay, I'm enjoying this. I read this tale. I can't put this book down. This was an incredible story. I'm trying to think, like, Ellie brought up she liked the first paragraph of something earlier. Which tale was it? I think it might have been Question of Price. Let me look. It was the lesser evil. Never mind. Okay, I'll keep that in mind, though. I also love that the stories are not in chronological order. Yeah, I like that they're linked to, like, loosely, but things that are happening as Geralt recovers, and, yeah, as your memory works. Like, you see something, you meet someone, and it reminds you of this one event. You're not going to go through a bunch of flashbacks in order. They're just going to come up organically as the things around you remind you of past events. Yeah, the real Rivia is a city. Riva is a city next to Lake Garda in Italia. Riva, the full name of the city is Riva de Garda, but everyone just calls it Riva. Oh, really? I'm not familiar with this. That's cool. It's based on that? There are a few moments in the book where I thought of this post from Reddit about some inconsistencies between this and later books. Sapkowski cared a near negative amount about world trivia, like geography, dates, and history, unless the story demanded it, and this is the exact type of question that really peeved him off in interviews. His response would be, what does it matter, and let the reader figure it out for themselves. There's a lot of references to it in real life. Is that right? So this tale, to remind everyone about what it was. Grain of truth. A grain of truth. Geralt helps to break another curse. He finds a decrepit building in the forest where a humanoid monster lives. When Geralt doesn't flinch, the creature introduces himself as Nivellen and invites him inside. Nivellen tells Geralt that he was cursed to look like a monster and that women stay in his estate in exchange for riches. Nivellen fell in love with one of them, Verena, who Geralt recognizes as a type of vampire. Geralt attempts to fight her, and Nivellen stabs her. When Verena dies, Nivellen is transformed back into a human. Anyone else feel as strongly about this story as I did? This one had, like, all of the dark foreboding of, like, I don't know, like a grim fairy tale or whatever. Even the setting, like, in the forest, it's so... The building tension in these scenes is so good. I like that Iola reminds him of Yennefer, and then we don't learn who Yennefer is until way later. I love this story. The first time I read it, I did too. This is the first one that really grabbed me. I love how Sapkowski doesn't care about history, and then there is George R.R. Martin. Like, the humans in the Witcher universe are from Earth. The references to real-world places is because they're named after real-world places in the universe. I think this one was my favorite, but I'm not even halfway through, so it doesn't have that much competition. The Beauty and the Beast with Brothers Grimm. Okay, this one, it just keeps getting better. As it goes. What was the first? Okay. The scene of, like, Geralt just sort of, like, piecing things together. I thought it was a cool, like, way to, like, in action, in scene, show his abilities, his tracking abilities, or his Witcher, like, deductive abilities. So, Roach, he said quietly, the case is reasonably clear. The armorer and the woman arrived on horseback from the direction of the forest. They were on their way home from Murville, because nobody carries an uncashed credit note for long. Why were they going this way and not following the highway? I don't know. But they were crossing the heath side by side. And then, again, I don't know why, they both dismounted, or fell from, their horses. The armorer died instantly. The woman ran, then fell and died, and whatever attacked her, which didn't leave any tracks, dragged her along the ground with her throat in its teeth. The horses ran off. This happened 2 or 3 days ago. The mayor snorted restlessly, reacting to his tone of voice. The thing which killed them, continued Geralt, watching the forest edge, was neither a werewolf nor a leshy. Neither would have left so much for the scavengers. If there were swamps here, I'd say it was Kikimora or a viper. Viper? But there aren't any swamps left. I think I want to read it viper, right? But then, I don't know, like viper, like snake. Yeah. Showing, like, his abilities, and then, like, within his dialogue, giving you, the reader, the breakdown of, like, what occurred here, but leaving so much to your imagination. Like, this whole tale, you're still wondering, like, What is he gonna meet? Like, what killed them? And it's like such a great gradual reveal. And also just like the relationship with his horse. You really enjoy the monologues to his horse? Yeah, I'm with you. But the Witcher world I consider kind of like a more actual planet version of Zen from Half-Life, where monsters and ideas from other worlds just kind of plonk themselves down into this one haphazardly. Wow, yeah? I guess I didn't, and Frederick, I think, told me before, I didn't really think about its connection to other worlds. I was just like thinking about it as its own world and like how it functioned within itself. Because I don't think in this book we really get a whole lot of that. So maybe my lack of experience doesn't lead me to think about that too much. So Rivia is not meant to be Riva, but it might be named after in-universe.
今何してる？
月を見てるよ。
僕も同じ月を見てる。
ねえ、Spotify のジャムで同じ曲でも聴かない？
いいね。送って。あ、今こんな曲聴いてるんですね。
Spotify プレミアムのジャム機能ならそれぞれのデバイスで同じ曲を同時に聴ける。今なら3ヶ月無料。
And we're back. The second one, two piece for a reason. I was thinking like Vipper. Yeah. Okay. That's how you read words. But then I don't know. When it comes to fantasy stuff, I'm always kind of like wondering. I actually, I pulled up some of these monsters so we could look at them. We mentioned the Kikimora, right? The Kikimora is a legendary creature, a female house spirit in Slavic mythology. Her role in the house is usually juxtaposed with that of the domovoi. The Kikimora can either be a bad or a good spirit, which will depend on the behavior of the homeowner. In more recent times, the image of a Kikimora as a female swamp spirit had developed. And we also mentioned the Vipper here, also known as a Whipper, is a creature of the swamps, haunting them and fighting for territory with the Kikimora. They're large reptile. Whoop. Do I have this? Okay, good. Yeah. They are large reptiles, like vipers the size of alligators. They can stretch their jaws wide, but the fangs are not as much of a threat as they look. It is their poison one should be aware of. There's this whole thing that happens with it that explains how humans got to the world, seen with many monsters. I don't think the books ever actually confirm that. It's a theory, kind of. Okay. Wow. I think it's quite clever because you could just have had him rationalize his deductive reasoning in his mind, but it's so much more flavorful that he's speaking this all out loud to Roach. I agree. Yeah. It gives you like a... like that's... A lot of the passages I highlighted, I found like the lore interesting, or like, oh, that's a very good line. It's just good writing. But again and again, it's like, this is like the definition of good writing, where like I am learning so much about this world. It is building so much tension. It is establishing such a great atmosphere. It's getting my imagination to run wild, and it's doing it all through action or dialogue or just like in the moment. It's not like, it's not an internal monologue. It's not like after the fact, just it's not telling me, right? It's showing me in these actions and interactions again and again. So good. Yeah, so those are some of those creatures. Let's get this back off. Yeah, I love him talking to his horse. When he goes to meet Nivellen. Or no, I'm sorry, this is, he comes upon the house, right? He sees the girl on the slope of the hill. He just climbed down. "Greetings," he said, raising his hand in a friendly gesture. He took a step toward the girl. She turned her head a little, following his movements. Her face was pale, her eyes black and enormous. The smile, if it had been a smile, vanished from her face as though wiped away with a cloth. Geralt took another step. The leaves rustled underfoot, and the girl ran down the slope like a deer, flitting between the hazel bushes. She was no more than a white streak as she disappeared into the depths of the forest. The long dress didn't appear to restrict her ease of movement in the least. There's so much like contrasting, maybe not contrasting, but like usually if you're comparing something to a deer, and it is, a very graceful and maybe almost innocent image, but the enormous black eyes, the smile, if it had been a smile, vanished from her face as though wiped away with a cloth. It's very creepy. I'm getting a lot of different imagery here, and it all combines into one very fascinating scene and image, and just great shit. Great shit. Thanks, Japanese Spotify. Yeah, I didn't see a playlist I liked as much on Apple Music, which is the one service I actually pay for, so here we are on Spotify. We gotta listen to the ads. Sorry. There's one change I remember right now. Dandelion, Jaskier, has a different name in German because dandelion, the flower, has a different name in German. In the German version, he uses the German name for delphinium, which is called Rittersporn. Interesting. That's cool. That's a cool factoid. Thank you. They go 10 rounds for the reptile. What was the next one that I had? I guess it's, yeah, all the interactions with Nivellen once he's in the house. This, however many pages this lasts, is some of the best, other than a question of price at the banquet, I want to say. And there's a couple great moments, but man, the tension in this scene as like Geralt comes upon this monster living out in the woods, and he's already seen this initial scene of these victims, and he doesn't really know what's just like dismembered them, torn them apart. And then you meet this creature, and there are like the formalities and like the hospitality that Nivellen shows Geralt, but it's guarded the entire time. They're all just like watching one another as they go through these pleasantries, you know, sharing a meal and learning more about one another gradually, and having these moments where like, oh, we might be enemies. Where is this going to go? Because the monster learning that Geralt is a witcher. Let's see. I highlighted this for a reason. So yeah, this is, Nivellen is like able to conjure up food and drink magically and is sharing it with Geralt. Has invited him into the home. An acceptable reason, the monster said, and laughed loudly. But I don't accept it. It's got nothing to do with you, and that's that. But just to satisfy your curiosity a little, I'll show you what I used to look like. Okay, so this is revealing. We've just learned that Nivellen has not always been a monster. He was changed magically. With good fucking reason. A disgusting fucker. Piece of shit. So the priestess, I think she was a priestess, got her revenge on him. Yeah, dandelion in German is called Löwenzahn, which means lion tooth, and yeah, that would just sound weird. That's a cool name, though. I didn't know that. Lion tooth. I like that. There's a part of the book that talks about humans being foreign to the world, or at very least the continent. I must have missed that then. Oh, here we go. In the days when the peasants used to go reap the harvest in armed bands, when villagers were surrounded by a triple stockade, when merchant caravans looked like the march of regular troops, and loaded catapults stood on the ramparts of the few towns night and day. Because it was us, human beings, who were the intruders here. This land was ruled by dragons, manticores, griffins, and amphisbinas. Probably fucked that up. Vampires and werewolves, Striga, Kikimoras, Chimera, and flying dregs. I remember this. I don't even know if I highlighted this or not. I guess I didn't think about it as the world. I thought they were talking about the region. The continent, maybe. I didn't think about them coming in from an actual different world or universe. Because you get that idea returned to again with, Devil's Story. Edge of the World, where they talk about the humans moving into what was previously Elven land and like driving the elves up into the forest and the mountains, and it's kind of described in a similar way, where like we cultivated and tamed this land and drove out the native inhabitants. It's hard to find the PDF. Yeah, so even this first book established that humans are not from around here. As far as I remember, there are mentions of witchers there. The first ones who started work some 300 years ago. This is before the previous paste. Thank you for sharing those. Okay. Okay, so he's showing off what he used to look like. I'll show you what he used to look like. Look at those portraits. The first from the chimney is my father. The second, Pox only knows. And the third is me. Can you see it? Beneath the dust and spider webs, a nondescript man with a bloated, sad, spotty face and watery eyes looked down from the painting. Geralt, who was no stranger to the way portrait painters tended to flatter their clients, nodded. Can you see it? Repeated Nivellen, baring his fangs. I can. Who are you? I don't understand. You don't understand? The monster raised his head. His eyes shone like a cat's. My portrait is hung beyond the candlelight. I can see it, but I'm not human. At least not at the moment. A human looking at my portrait would get up, go closer, and no doubt have to take the candlestick with him. You didn't do that, so the conclusion is simple, but I'm asking you plainly. Are you human? Geralt didn't lower his eyes. If that's the way you put it, he answered after a moment's silence, then not quite. Surely it won't be tactless if I ask. In that case, what you are? A witcher. Nivellen repeated after a moment. If I remember rightly, witchers earn their living in an interesting way. They kill monsters for money. You remember correctly. Silence fell again. Candle flames pulsated, flicked upward in thin wisps of fire, glimmering in the cut crystal chalices. Cascades of wax trickled down the candlestick. Nivellen sat still, lightly twitching his enormous ears. Let's assume, he said finally, that you draw your sword before I jump on you. Let's assume you even manage to cut me down. With my weight, that won't stop me. I'll take you down through sheer momentum. And then it's teeth that'll decide. What do you think, Witcher? Which one of us has a better chance if it comes to biting each other's throats? This page is so fucking good. It's so good. It's so tense. And I love that he takes the moment to just pan around and look at the candle flames and the wax, and you can just cut the tension with a knife. But every place they talk about in the book has monster problems. Humans don't seem to fit in anywhere. And they don't talk about the continent as a new world they have colonized like the Americas, and there's no old world to return to. That's a good point. Yeah, and we never get a sense of where they were moving in from. So no Europe, so to speak, right? A man with bloated, sad, spotty face and watery eyes. I don't remember quite well enough because it's been a while. Do we know how long ago humans arrived to these lands? I don't think I ever figured out if it was ancient past for them or if it happened recently enough for the people to be like, yeah, we don't know how we got here. Yeah, I don't know. This is actually, like, I was told this before and I forgot. This is so good, but it's even better as we get to this next bit. You aren't a monster, Nivellen, the Witcher said dryly. Pox, that's something new. So what am I? Cranberry pudding? A flock of wild geese flying south on a sad November morning? No? Maybe I'm the virtue that a miller's buxom daughter lost in spring? Well, Geralt, tell me what I am. Can't you see I'm shaking with curiosity? You're not a monster. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to touch this silver tray. And in no way could you hold my medallion. Like, the parallelism of, like, either one of them revealing themselves to be what they actually are unintentionally. Like, Geralt noticing, being able to see the painting from as far away in the darkness as he can. And then Nivellen inadvertently, like, touching the medallion or the silver tray. And, like, either one knows what's up with the other one, but they just don't really know the full story yet. And again, with the building tension, and then you, like, after the fact as the reader, you are aware of, like, they've been aware of one another, aspects of one another for some time now throughout this meal. So it was even more tense than you realized. I thought this was just a brilliant few pages here. It's so good. And you get the sense, like, they are gonna, especially after, like, the Striga story and some of the action you've seen, like, oh, this is gonna explode into violence. And it doesn't. It doesn't. They pull it back. Brilliant. Great story. I think I had something on page 64. Yeah, so this is Nivellen, like, talking, like, flashing back to when he was turned into a monster. I ran into the mirror in the breaks, but just imagine.
人間の皆さんに正直な気持ちを伝えたい。私がちょっとでも弱くなるとすぐ電波が悪いって。私そんなに悪いですかね。 本当はめちゃくちゃ届けたいんですよ。でも山とか海とか洞窟とかはねえ、電波なしで音楽とか聴けたらいいんですが。
Spotify プレミアムなら電波がなくてもオフラインで音楽を楽しめる。最初の3ヶ月無料。
Yeah, I get that service through Apple Music, the one I pay for. Anyway. I ran to the mirror in the breaks, but just imagine, Geralt. I looked at myself with growing anxiety. Less and less did I long to return to my former shape. You see, Geralt, I used to be a weakling, and now I'd become a strapping fellow. I'd keep getting ill, I'd cough, my nose would run, but now I don't catch anything. And my teeth? You wouldn't believe how rotten my teeth had been. And now, I can bite through the leg of a chair. Do you want me to bite a chair leg? No, I don't. There are, like, numerous interactions in this book that made me laugh aloud with, like, just Geralt's, I don't know, just, like, flat, no nonsense delivery of, like, a single, like, one sentence or one word line. Like, no, I'm not interested in that. I don't need to see you do that. Or, no, we're not doing that. Like, with the devil, like, we're not doing that. It's too hot today. I'm not racing you. And I just like the idea of the man who's turned into a monster and prefers being the monster because he was like a really, ugly or weak, sickly man. And now he has power that he's never known, even though he's a monster. Beaver boy. Beaver boy. Beaver boy. Oh, I had something else to say. Oh, right. This is like where we're learning in his belief that maybe a kiss might change him back. Of course, I'd long ago stopped believing that a virgin's kiss would transform the way I looked. And I'd come to terms with it. And what's more, I'd come to the conclusion that things were fine as they were, and there wasn't any need for changes. Really? No changes, Nivellen? It's true. I have a horse's health, which came with the way I look for one. Secondly, my being different works on girls like an aphrodisiac. Don't laugh. I'm certain that as a human, I'd have to give a mighty good chase to get at a girl like, for example, Vinamira, who's an extremely beautiful maid. I don't suppose she'd have glanced twice at the fellow in the portrait. And thirdly, safety. Father had enemies, and a couple of them had survived. People whom the crew, under my pitiful leadership, had sent to their graves, had relatives. There's gold in the cellar. If it wasn't for the fear inspired by me, somebody would come and get it, if only peasants with pitchforks. So just like, again, the idea of the man who prefers being the monster. I thought was an interesting, kind of compelling idea. I can't with this only a virgin's kiss can cure me. Hey, Soft Talker Radio, what's going on? That's the one, it comes up again and again, even more explicit in some of the later stories, is like references to pre-existing fairy tales that we know in our world. Snow White and Cinderella in particular. Very explicit references to those. And with Ronfrey, the way it's like the ultimate twist or like retelling of the Snow White story. It's so, when you add that dimension to it, it's one of the most compelling stories in the book. I skipped some messages. Oh, sorry. Oh, you're right. Quite a few, actually. The book mentions the first Witchers from 300 years ago, but other than that, there isn't much information about it in this book. I would assume Witchers came a while after humans. I can't imagine humans figuring out how to create mutants immediately upon arrival. What are we hearing? Oh, did you write that during the ad? If so, I wanted like the sense that we're in a coffee shop for a book club. So I wanted to play some like just soothing coffee shop jazz, in the background. But, I didn't want a muted stream. So I really like this playlist. It's royalty-free jazz instrumentals, but it's only on Spotify as far as I can tell. And I don't pay for Spotify, so we got some commercial breaks happening. Yeah, I can't with those either now. That's implying Prince Eric wasn't a complete dude, bro. Here, right? What are you afraid of? The monster stopped at the door to the room and turned. I've had enough of your questions, Witcher, which you keep asking instead of answering mine. Obviously, you've got to be asked in the right way. Listen, for some time now, I've had hideous dreams. Maybe the word monstrous would be more accurate. Am I right to be afraid? Briefly, please. Have you ever had muddy feet after waking from such a dream? Conifer needles in your sheets? No. No, briefly, please. You're rightly afraid. Can anything be done about it? Briefly, please. No. Finally, let's go. I'll see you out. So we've learned, like, Nivellen, people bring their daughters to stay with him for a time in exchange for riches. He gets the company, but he's currently, you still don't really know what's going on until the end, actually, of like who is staying with Nivellen. Some creature, and I thought this was a great moment of just like continuing. Like, I could not read fast enough. Like, what is going on? What is he staying with? Who is she? What kind of creature is she? And it's such a drip feed of ideas about what she could be. It's so creepy and well done there. He spent the night on the Bear Summit. This is when he's ridden off. After that first interaction with Nivellen. He spent the night on the bare summit of a high hill, his sword on his knees, beside a tiny campfire into which, every now and then, he threw wisps of monkshood. In the middle of the night, he noticed the glow of a fire far away in the valley. He heard mad howling and singing, and a sound which could have only been the screaming of a tortured woman. When dawn had barely broken, he made his way there to find nothing but a trampled glade and charred bones and still warm ashes. Something sitting in the crown of an enormous oak shrieked and hissed. It could have been a harpy or an ordinary wildcat. The Witcher didn't stop to check. Some of these scenes just like giving you a sense of the wider, scary, dangerous, fascinating world where like these awful, frightening things are happening. And just the image of him sitting on the hill, hearing these things in the distance, coming and finding the aftermath of some event, and that's all you get. You don't know. And it just, as a reader, it just gets you to wonder and be fascinated with this larger world. The book just continually shows such restraint in what it chooses to reveal to you as you go. So this is when he's confronted the creature. You like birds, continued the Witcher, but that doesn't stop you from biting the necks of people of both sexes, does it? You and Nivellen, indeed. A beautiful couple you'd make. A monster and a vampire, rulers of the forest castle. You'd dominate the whole area in a flash. You, eternally thirsty for blood, and he, your guardian, a murderer at your service, a blind tool. But first he had to become a true monster, not a human being, in a monster's mask. The huge black eyes narrowed. Where is he, black-haired one? You were singing, so you've drunk some blood. You've taken the ultimate measure, which means you haven't managed to enslave his mind. Am I right? The confrontation with her in the battle, and then she's killed. And on the other side of that, right, Nivellen changes back. I think this is where the story, like everything I've listed thus far is why I loved it. And then it devolves into like, okay, she's a creature and we need to kill her, and the Witcher is here to kill her. But before she goes, a final embrace with Nivellen, and then he transforms back to human. It's incredible, Geralt. After so many years, how is it possible? There's a grain of truth in every fairy tale, said the Witcher quietly. Love and blood. They both possess a mighty power. Wizards and learned men have been racking their brains over this for years, but they haven't arrived at anything except that what, Geralt? It has to be true love. There's always like a little additional something, some addendum that like imbues or re-imbues or recontextualizes what you've just seen with like just this somber or like bittersweet or like just overwhelming sadness. Even when there's a happy ending, there's always that constantly. It never, like, even in A Question of Price, which is almost like in danger of being a little too saccharine with the way it just ends so happily, neatly. There's like aspects of that in it, and because it's like come after these other tales, just by virtue of being surrounded by less happy endings, benefits from that. I don't think it's overly saccharine, but it gets close at a few moments. My only real issue with the book is that I don't enjoy reading the combat sections. This story, while I still like it a lot, has the worst so far. The Striga fight interested me more, but I had the same issue with it. I think I might agree with you. I didn't dislike the combat sections, but they're the least interesting part for me. Like, to me, and you'll notice I didn't even highlight anything in the actual encounter, and I didn't really find anything to talk about in it, because it's just action. I think you do need that moment of catharsis, but to me, I'm much more interested in the build-up, in the moments of tension leading to the encounter. Like I said, in the meal between Geralt and Nivellen, in the learning about what this creature is. Once we know what she is and we have to fight her, I mean, we have to get there eventually, we have to do it, but that's the least compelling part. How it establishes her and her abilities is much more interesting to me. So I think I'm with you. I'm also not really big on reading scenes like that, yeah. But also, it sounds like the Striga fight, which I got to, isn't a very substantial tale compared to some of the others. It's not. Like we were saying earlier, it's just sort of place setting, introduction to characters and events and abilities in the world. I think the fights against monsters are interesting because it explains why Witchers fight the way they do. It shows how monsters are intelligent and how they are not. How pirouettes confuse as many monsters, but not all. That's a good point, yeah. And the creatures themselves are fascinating. And so different. I do love, I didn't highlight it, I don't think, but like as Geralt approaches her, he throws out like a bunch of things. This is actually really good. Where was this? It was actually right after I highlighted this. No doubt you consider yourself the lady of the manor now? A nod, this time clearer. Are you a mullah? A slow shake of the head. The hiss which reverberated through his bones could have only come from the pale, ghastly, smiling lips, although the Witcher didn't see them move. Alpor? Denial. The Witcher backed away and clasped the hilt of his sword tighter. That means you're a Bruxa. I loved, like, you get this, another scene where you get the sense of his knowledge and his experience. Like, he's running through the creatures that he's encountered in the past. Like, are you one of these? I've seen enough evidence that you could be this, but I don't think it's this. Is it this? It's got to be this. Good scene. Interesting perspective, yeah. That's kind of all I had on that story, but I really loved this story. I thought it was wonderful. So well written. Like how in the fight against the Striga, it's not just a mindless monster, it is animalistic. It gets scared, confused. Yeah, right. The book humanizes, if you even want to call it humanization, because like a lot of times the humans are the worst, like the worst actors in a situation. You know, you really see it at the edge of the world, like the malice of humans. And I left that story feeling so sad for the elves, you know? This sort of like fatalistic situation that they've found themselves in. Like they know that they have no future. They don't really know what else to do. And they were driven out from their home by humans. And then the Bruxa is smart, it adapts to his fighting style. Yeah. Good point. Might not have had anything for this. Let's see. Yeah, I think Lesser Evil. Let's move on to the Lesser Evil. That's the next thing I had anything on. This one, another, like, reading this story after the last one, like, I cannot put this book down. While the blow-by-blow isn't that interesting, I really enjoy those aspects of the fights. I think that's a great perspective, and I think I agree with you on that as well. Yeah. Like, they are the least interesting part to me, but they're not uninteresting, I guess I should say. Just, I'm always, much more compelled by, or much more interested in all the other things I listed. Like the build-up to the moment of catharsis, as opposed to the catharsis. So, synopsis for this story also adds in 2.5 minutes. I am going to take a quick break because I'm talking a lot and I need to get some water. But we can do the synopsis real quick. Lesser Evil. In the Lesser Evil, Geralt meets the wizard Stregobor, who is being hunted by a princess named Raunfrey. Stregobor explains that a prophecy claims that Raunfrey is a bloodthirsty monster and begs Geralt to kill her. When Geralt meets Raunfrey, she explains Stregobor's story was wrong. Her cruel stepmother and Stregobor forced her to live a violent life on the run. She tries to convince Geralt to help her kill Stregobor. Geralt refuses to help either of them. The following morning, he learns that one of Raunfrey's men led a massacre in another town. Fearing that Ronfrey plans another attack, Geralt kills her, but he is haunted by his decision. This is a brilliant story. I think the way, if anyone who didn't read it, you can interpret it as like, just imagine that Ronfrey is Snow White, and your Witcher protagonist is walking into town, and there's a wizard saying like, there's this woman after me, she's a monster, and here are all the reasons why she should be killed, and you kill monsters and you should kill her. And then meeting said monster and finding that she's a complex, compelling human being who, again, you could just read it as like the Snow White tale, where Snow White was abused and they attempted to murder her, like her evil stepmother, and she was on the run and has had all of these vast, fascinating adventures throughout the world and has done some awful shit, but is a product of awful shit. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, I should be doing that. I'm sorry. I should be muting that in those moments. Good call. I don't know why I'm not. I will in the next one. It's Renfrey? Okay. Maybe I'm trying to put a little French flourish on it. Renfrey. So the fight against Renfrey's men, not all that interesting to me, except to show that Witchers are far stronger than normal humans. You can generally assume names are not said in the French way, unless they are overtly French. Okay. Get the fuck out of here. I'm not Le Jambon. Okay, ads are here. I'm gonna take a quick break. Get a glass of water. Be right back. We will talk about The Lesser Evil. See y'all then. Thanks everybody for hanging around. Sound like he said he was gonna grab a glass of wine. Sunday fun day. Book club. Let's get the wines going. It's my understanding at least. Oh wait, this is mostly Northern, Central, and Eastern Europe. Problem there is like, I mean, I can't do it well, but I have a sort of vague understanding of how to pronounce some French words. But when it comes to those regions, I don't. Can't even do it poorly. Just don't know what to do. The Lesser Evil. Yeah. I think it's a great contrast to like getting Stregobor's version of events and expecting Geralt to meet like this bloodthirsty monster, and then meeting her and finding her to be one of the most compelling characters in the entire book. She was a fascinating character. And yes, she's done bad, evil shit, but she's been the product of such worse, eviler shit. And so much of what she's done has been an attempt to survive. Not to dismiss what she's done, but to understand her. Again, a complex character. I had something on page 94. Let's see. This is when Geralt is talking to Stregobor. And Stregobor is trying to enlist Geralt to, like, basically kill Renfri for him, because she's been chasing him from region to region, town to town, trying to exact vengeance. My facing death doesn't impress you much, does it? Stregobor, said Geralt. That's the way of the world. One sees all sorts of things when one travels. 2 peasants kill each other over a field which, the following day, will be trampled flat by 2 counts and their retinues trying to kill each other off. Men hang from trees at the roadside. Brigands slash merchants' throats. At every step in town, you trip over corpses in the gutters. In palaces, they stab each other with daggers, and somebody falls under a table at a banquet every minute, blue from poisoning. I'm used to it. So why should a death threat impress me, and one directed at you, at that? You get Geralt's character, you get a sense of the world. It's just a great bit of dialogue there. I like that Geralt does the only thing he can do with the information he has, and it ends up maybe being the wrong thing. Yeah, but with the information he had, he couldn't really do anything else. That's why the story's so good. You feel the conflict. Like, what are you going to do in this situation? There's no good, like, there's no lesser evil, right? And he refuses to accept that there is a lesser evil until he begrudgingly does. Like, I guess I do. And you get the continual conflict of Geralt. Like, I refuse to play either one of these people's games and give in and choose the lesser evil. I wash my hands of the situation until I'm driven to a point where I have to choose, and so I choose the lesser evil. And the lesser evil might have been the greater evil, or just an equal evil. It might have been the wrong thing, but you can't really see what else he could have done. I mean, you know, could have handed over the wizard. I think I might have done that. This is kind of what you're talking about, right? Let's see. In terms of, like, fate. All of them spoke of the eclipse in no uncertain terms. The Black Sun was to announce the imminent return of Lilith, still honored in the East under the name of Nia, and the extermination of the human race. Lilith's path was to be prepared by 60 women wearing gold crowns who would fill river valleys with blood. Oh no, I guess I highlighted this for another reason. I think I just like this line. Nonsense, said the Witcher. And what's more, it doesn't rhyme. There are so many really funny lines in this book. Like, that prophecy is nonsense. It doesn't even rhyme. All decent predictions rhyme. Very good line. He should have killed the fucking wizard. I would have. But he didn't, so to save lives, he did the second best thing, according to the info he had. Yeah, I mean, given Stregobor or Renfri, I'm handed over Stregobor, for sure. But I think I highlighted this just like, oh yeah, that's right. I think because this is the first moment where it really hit me, like, oh, we're getting like echoes of fairy tales and, you know, myths and legends that I'm familiar with, but this is like the most explicit one thus far. We're like, oh, we've got Renfrey, and then she became known as Shrike because she liked to impale the people she caught on a sharp pole while they were still alive. But, you know, them sending assassins after her and her surviving time and time again, and then living with 7 gnomes. Like, okay, so we have, like, the darkest retelling of the Snow White mythos imaginable, which made it even more fascinating to me to think about that aspect, like that dimension to it being a spin on that story. Just another additional dimension to this really complex character. Yeah, so this is kind of, I mean, a major point where we're getting into the theme of this story, right? And refusing to choose an evil. A lesser evil is still an evil, right? Evil is evil, Stregobor, said the Witcher seriously as he got up. Lesser, greater, middling, it's all the same. Proportions are negotiated, boundaries blurred. I'm not a pious hermit. I haven't done only good in my life. But if I'm to choose between one evil thing and another, then I prefer not to choose at all. Time for me to go. We'll see each other tomorrow. Maybe, said the wizard, if you get here in time. The chapter does do a good job of showing Geralt's personal code and how he's somewhat of a philosopher, but not in a way that's... He's both a badass and deep and smart, because the refusal to choose evils can be seen as too hopeful or naive. Yeah. I think... I mean, the way this whole story shakes out, like, there was never a good option. There's no right answer. You're left wondering as the reader, like, I don't know what I would have done. I don't know what anyone could have done. What should you have done? Like, yeah, I would have handed over the wizard, but I say that like with sort of like cavalierness, just being a reader of a tale. If I were Geralt, you know, and had a personal code, like, I don't know, I would like hand over this human being to be killed. Like, that's what you, there's no question about it. I think I highlighted things that just added dimension to Renfrey's character. That was the end of the princess. I like the... Again, you're coming in like only hearing Stregobor's version of events about her being this destined to be monstrous thing that was born into this world being a bloodthirsty subhuman beast. And then to meet her and it's like, no, she was a princess that was chased out and abused and violated and forced to live a life on the run and do whatever she could to survive. That was the end of the princess, she continued. The dress grew grew torn. The camera grew grew grubby. And then there was dirt, hunger, stench, stink, and abuse. Selling myself to any old bum for a bowl of soup or a roof over my head. Do you know what my hair was like? Silk. And it reached a good foot below my hips. I had it cut right to the scalp with sheep shears when I caught lice. It's never grown back properly. Are you Witcher or aren't you, damn it? They say you killed a Kikimora and brought it here on a donkey to get a price for it. Stregobor is worse than the Kikimora. It's just a mindless beast which kills because that's how gods made it. Stregobor is a brute, a true monster. Bring him to me on a donkey and I won't begrudge you any sum you care to mention. I think this is what helps establish the theme that we're talking about so well, is like you're focalizing through Geralt. He's coming into this town, he's getting one version of events, and then you come across town and then you meet Shrike, Renfrey, and you get the same argument from her towards Stregobor. Like, he is worse than a monster. At least the thing with the monster is, like, they're not choosing to be malicious. Like, they're sort of like they're running on instinctual behaviors. He is actually like a conniving, malicious, evil, calculating man. Gives me the shivers. Yeah. Does he not want to be held accountable? Does he lack conviction to do the right thing? With so much evil in the world, choosing to not participate is a convenient out. Like, Stregobor is monstrous, but Renfrey killed half a town. Both are bad people, even if one is worse. Stregobor being worse, in my opinion. Anyone familiar with my country's politics, I find this story very compelling on that front as well. The idea of the lesser evil. And the desire to not validate either one. And, like, there not being any good option. Ever. I had some personal connections with this one as well, and just in the tale in itself. Renfrey lowered her head, but only for a moment. Her eyes flashed. Fine, I'm supposed to be cursed, contaminated in my mother's womb. I'm supposed to be, yes, a monster. And are you? For a fleeting moment, she looked helpless, shattered, and very sad. I don't know, Geralt, she whispered, and then her features hardened again. Because how am I to know, damn it? When I cut my finger, I bleed. I bleed every month, too. I get a bellyache when I overeat, and a hangover when I get drunk. When I'm happy, I sing, and I swear when I'm sad. When I hate someone, I kill them, and when... But enough of this, your answer, Witcher. I mean, up until this point, you've been told, like, she was... It's sort of, like, beyond choice. It's a predetermined thing. She's a monster. And you're getting the humanization of monsters throughout these stories already. And just in this moment, like, when I cut myself, I bleed. This section here is more compelling than anything Stregobor had to say for himself. She's, again, a much more compelling character than he could ever be. Even if, like, her crimes are worse in the grand scheme of things. If, like, the counting of the human misery that she is created is of a greater amount, just on the numbers. Do you think Stregobor is worse? I think, like, I think that's what I was getting at. Like, I don't know, if you run the numbers in terms of, like, the quantity of human misery, but then if you think about, like, who's more justified, or, like, who was given fewer options, you know, like, Stregobor has agency more so than Renfrey ever did. Like, he's using his position of power to actively cause misery. Like, she has been put in a position where she is left with few options. And they both choose violent, murderous options, but one of them has less agency than the other, right? Renfrey says she wasn't going to do the ultimatum because Stregobor wasn't going to stop her anyways, because he is a horrible person who couldn't care less about the town. But that means she would have done it if there was a chance of him coming out. I was thinking the same thing. Lots of people said they didn't vote for Hillary Kamala because while they weren't as bad as Trump, they're still bad, and I don't vote for bad people. Stregobor locked up girls in towers to go insane, cut up at least one while she was alive, tortured children. I think that one is real bad. Yeah. I think you are emboldening me in my position. Hand over the wizard. No questions asked. I say kill both. Why choose the lesser evil? Why not choose both evils? I choose the greater evil. And then the lesser evil. I want it all. Why choose? Oh, I think I was just bookmarking that when I was keeping my place while reading. Why choose an evil when you can kill the evil? Yeah, right. I shouldn't have phrased it that way. That's not exactly what it is. Oh, this one. Okay, wait. Where are we? I think we are... Yes, okay, so we're back to Geralt recuperating, talking to Yola. And I thought this was just like a little one-off interesting passage. Maybe I'll read the whole thing, because I think we need the setup. My first monster, Yola, was bald and had exceptionally rotten teeth. I came across him on the highway where, with some fellow monsters, Deserters. He'd stopped a peasant's cart and pulled out a little girl, maybe 13 years old. His companions held her father while the bald man tore off her dress, yelling it was time for her to meet a real man. I rode up and said the time had come for him too. I thought it was very witty. The bald monster released the girl and threw himself at me with an axe. He was slow but tough. I hit him twice, not clean cuts, but spectacular, and only then did he fall. His gang ran away when they saw what a witcher's sword could do to a man. Am I boring you, Iola? I need this. I really do need it. Where was I? My first noble deed. You see, they told me again and again in Kaer Morhen not to get involved in such incidents, not to play at being knight-errant or uphold the law, not to show off, but to work for money. And I joined this fight like an idiot, not 50 miles from the mountains. And do you know why? I wanted the girl, sobbing with gratitude, to kiss her savior on the hands, and her father to thank me on his knees. In reality, her father fled with his attackers. And the girl, drenched in the bald man's blood, threw up, became hysterical, and fainted in fear when I approached her. Since then, I've only very rarely interfered in such matters. I think this is an interesting thing, like the fantasy versus the reality, and then like giving some insight into Geralt and like him being young and naive and just wanting to show off and, you know, like be the dashing knight who comes in, rides in and saves the day, and then, you know, have the people he saved to be like weeping and praising him. Yeah. I won't continue that train of thought in Twitch chat. I would appreciate that. Probably for the best. All I can say is we're talking about fantastical stories with fantastical happenings today in this book club. I think, yeah, that's what I had on that one. Great story. It hurt. I mean, it really, Renfri, having to kill Renfri, and you get the, I've already skipped past that. What am I thinking? Right, we're past that already. But just that final scene, them battling, like, now they're out of options. They've made their choice, and even in the moment when Geralt is forced to confront her in the street and fight her, you get the sense of his unwillingness. He doesn't want this, but they're in it too deep now. And she knows the same, and she kind of knows she's not going to defeat him. And then there's one stray cut on like her inner thigh, I think it is. He gets her artery, and she bleeds out in the street. And it's heartbreaking. Especially like after you've heard her tale, like all the things she's been through to get here. Like, again, I know she's done evil shit. But just, like, as a life, you get the greater events of this long journey she's been on, the things that she survived, and then just abruptly, one cut on the inner thigh in the street, she bleeds out. One thing about Renfri, her evil felt more human. Revenge for one. It really did. Yeah. And she... I don't know, like, she gives impossible ultimatums and puts people in impossible situations to have to choose. But if they were to choose, like, she would leave that town with only one person being killed, and that person kind of had that shit coming, you know? Even though it's wrong, you know, you want a proper system of justice, but you can sort of see, in this world in which these characters exist, it seems more just. The voice of reason. The voice of reason. Anyone have anything on this one? Another interstitial. I think this is where we first meet Dandelion, right? Is that right? I love their banter, their camaraderie, the dynamic between Geralt and Dandelion. Like Geralt being just like no nonsense witcher, and Dandelion being like this sort of like drunken, I don't know, like quippy, ridiculous kind of person. Also, the sorts of things soldiers do, killing half a town, is the sort of thing that mercenaries do. Evil, but relatively mundane evil. Let's see, where are we? Oh, yeah, I think it's this one. This one, I just think, again, this book has some very funny lines with Dandelion and then Neneki. My dearest respects, venerable mother, he whines stupidly. Praise be the great Melitel and her priestesses, the springs of virtue and wisdom. Stop talking bullshit, snorted Neneki. And don't call me mother. The very idea that you could be my son fills me with horror. It's so good. It's so good. She turned on her heel and left, her trailing robe rustling, Dandelion aping her sketched a parody bow. He's great. I really enjoyed all the scenes with Dandelion. Dandelion sat and peeped into the book lying on the lectern. History? He smiled. Roderick de Novembre? I've read him, I have. History was second on my list of favorite subjects when I was studying at the academy in Oxenfurt. What was the first? Geography, said the poet seriously. The atlas was bigger, and it was easier to hide a demijohn of vodka behind it. Neneki says my favorite line in the whole book. What's the line? Is it in this section? Or maybe later? I wonder if I highlighted it as well. I feel like I got one of her lines later on. Oh, so no, I don't have that one. I delivered to you, shitty brat. Pity your mother, but don't tempt fate, and don't force me to teach you manners. That's good. Oh, I did highlight this, didn't I? Yeah. As far as I remember, there are mentions of witchers there, of the first ones who started work some 300 years ago. Oh, maybe this is different. Wait. In the days when the peasants used to go to reap the harvest in the armed bands, when villages were surrounded by a triple stockade, when merchant caravans looked like the march of regular troops, and loaded catapults stood on the ramparts of the few towns night and day, because it was us, human beings, who were the intruders here. Yeah, this is the one you shared earlier. This land was ruled by dragons, manticores, griffins, and amphibians. Vampires and werewolves, Striga, Kikimoros, Chimera, and flying drakes, and this land had to be taken from them bit by bit. Every valley, every mountain pass, every forest, and every meadow. And we didn't manage that without the invaluable help of witchers. But those times have gone, Geralt. Irrevocably gone. The Baron won't allow a forktail to be killed because it's the last Draconid for 1,000 miles and no longer gives rise to fear, but rather to compassion and nostalgia for times past. The troll under the bridge gets on with people. He's not a monster used to frighten children. He's a relic and a local attraction, and a useful one at that. And Chimera, manticores, and amphibians? They dwell in virgin forests and inaccessible mountains. So yeah, I guess I just misinterpreted what this was talking about. I thought it was talking about the continent or the region and not the world as a whole. This is the whole thing you pasted. Did you? Okay, I knew you got up to here. I was wondering, like, did you have this as well? Because I like this addition to that. Like, that's fascinating with just, like, the background lore. And then just this additional idea of, like, the tamed world that has some elements of the wild world, and now the things that used to fill us with dread, the things that used to prey upon us, are local attractions. We got a zoo with tigers and lions and bears and all the things that are so scary, and we like to go and take a look. It's fascinating. And we don't, now we were worried about them. Like, we got them on the endangered species list. We're trying to hold on to them, and earlier ages of humans knew only the threat. Now, that last part wasn't relevant. It was, yeah, wasn't relevant to the conversation at the time. Yeah, this is what, so I think this whole bit, this for the reason that you shared, although I kind of misunderstood it. And then this for that additional dimension on, like, I love that. I love feeling nostalgia, the sense of humanity feeling nostalgia for the wilder, untamed world. And then some people recognizing, like, we got to kill this monster, but, like, the Baron won't allow it. He, you know, it's an endangered species now. I thought that was really fascinating. So, the edge of the world is where we are now. The edge of the world. Geralt and his friend Dandelion travel to Lower Posada to investigate a creature that has been stealing grain. The creature is Torque, an intelligent being with a goat-like appearance, and a local prophetess, Lily? Lil, maybe. Forbids anyone from harming it. When Geralt and Dandelion attempt to corner Torque, they're captured by a group of elves. Torque had been stealing grain and seeds for the elves because they are facing starvation. The elves once lived in the area, but were driven out by humans. The leader of the elves, Filavandrel, prepares to kill Geralt and Dandelion, but Lil arrives. She has transformed into a goddess of
音楽を
life
楽しみ中の皆さん
and has transformed into a goddess of life and agriculture. The elves free Geralt and Dandelion after Lil and Filavandrel communicate telepathically. I think this might have one of the funniest interactions in the whole book. There's some really good ones. I highlighted something on 191. Let's see. People, Geralt turned his head, like to invent monsters and monstrosities. Then they seem less monstrous themselves. When they get blind drunk, cheat, steal, beat their wives, starve an old woman, when they kill a trapped fox with an axe or riddle that last existing unicorn with arrows, they like to think that the bane entering cottages at daybreak is more monstrous than they are. They feel better then. They find it easier to live. Just a great line. So many just great ideas. A lot of them aren't like exactly new ideas, right? They're sort of age-old, sort of philosophical concepts and ideas, but phrased in a great way and like recontextualized in this world or delivered by a character that adds insight into their outlook or experience. Just again and again. Such great writing. This is another one. It's kind of similar to, I want to say Geralt talking to, it was Neneki, right? Where he's like, I don't believe. And what was the line? And I just talked about it earlier. She's like, it would be the first instance of like a lack of faith having any power at all. A similar sort of exchange here. There's no such thing as devils, yelled the poet, shaking the cat from sleep once and for all. No such thing. To the devil with it. Devils don't exist. True, Geralt smiled. But Dandelion, I could never resist the temptation of having a look at something that doesn't exist. I love that. So this one, we've got Geralt basically hired by the town to drive out this local devil that has been causing a lot of mischief. Is not an evil character. Like, they even begrudgingly accept that, like, kind of helps out here and there, but is mostly a nuisance, like, just fucks with everyone in town and causes a lot of, like, chaos and is, like, loud and noisy and messy and pesters us in various ways. And we just want him gone. We don't want you to kill him, just drive him out. And so we get Dandelion and Geralt, like, attempting to confront this little, like, fawn-like, devil-like creature. I love how Geralt knows the devils aren't a thing, but he hears the details given and understands that it's something compared to the bullshit from earlier. Yeah, that's a great pick. I don't think I highlighted those, but, like, you get people coming to Geralt and, like, oh, I don't remember the monsters, but just to name some that we talked about earlier, like, oh, we've got a Kikimora around here. And it's like, that's bullshit. It's like, no, there's like a Viper about, like, horseshit. Like, you've tried to, like, name a creature by name. Like, this is, you're building something up in your mind, or this is like a local fable. This is nothing. But then we get the situation where, like, everyone doesn't know what it is. They're just calling it a devil. And, like, he hears enough strange details, like, this one is something. The fact of them not knowing, but, like, imparting what they do know is the more realistic story, right? Well, Dandelion just says devils aren't a thing, so let's move on. Yeah, it's a great contrast to them. But I love it, like, there's such an odd pair, but then you continually see reason for why they like to be with one another. And I love that, like, in the midst of Geralt's, like, he doesn't put up with a lot of shit, but then Dandelion's, like, jokes legitimately, like, make him laugh in, like, earnestness. And I find that so endearing. I love their dynamic. That's where it hurts, bleated the Sylvan. You'd like to get off lightly, wouldn't you? Without making an effort, eh? Pull the other one. Life, my good man, means competition. The best man wins. If you want to win with me, prove you're the best. So this is the devil challenging Geralt to a bunch of trials or, like, competitions. Instead of coming to an understanding, we'll have competitions. The winner dictates the conditions. I propose a race from here to the old willow on the dike. I don't know where the dike is or the old willow. I wouldn't suggest the race if you knew. I like competitions, but I don't like losing. I've noticed. No, we won't race each other. It's very hot today. This is such a funny exchange. I think it's so good. Like, we're gonna race. Like, I don't know where these places are. Of course you don't. That's why I'm suggesting it. I'm trying to win. I'd forgotten how many names were different in the games, either just spelled differently, or slightly differently, or completely different. Like, oh really? Dandelion is spelled that way? Interesting. This one's more like the flower. Huh. I wonder if it's due to like just like we have a translation into English, and then I wondered with CD Projekt Red, were they doing their own translation out of the original language, and maybe they like independently came up with a different like translation, or like anglicizing the name in a different way that makes equal amounts of sense in terms of how it's written, like phonetically. That's an interesting idea. Don't they call him Jaskier in the games? Do they? I haven't met him in the game, so I don't know. Like Wazim in the books, Vizima in the games. Oh, that's the same place? I was like, that was giving me pause. Like, I wonder if we might have some connection to these locations since they have a similar sound. Maybe they're derived from the same, I don't know, events or peoples, or... But got it. They call him Dandelion. I decided I wanted to put off playing the games. I was loving what I played of the game, but like I think I want to read all these books before I play any more of the games, because they're going to spoil these events, and I want to experience these things narratively, like, or literarily first, I think, because I thought this book was so good. This is another funny moment where they're just talking about the games they're going to play. The game is called So the Witcher Slowly. Don't do unto others which you would not have them do to you. You don't have to close your eyes. He just like gets the iron ball and just like throws it, chucks it at the devil's head. Geralt stooped in a lightning throw. The 1-inch iron ball whizzed sharply through the air and thwacked the Sylvan right between the horns. Like this story is the funniest story to me. The shenanigans between, I think there's also like a certain, there's not as much like weight to these events. Like ultimately it is a very sad tale when you consider it from the elves' perspective, but aside from that dimension, like no one's in it to kill anything or really seriously wound anyone. It's all just like wrestling and like throwing iron balls at one another's heads and like smacking each other around, and it's a bunch of like nearly slapstick physical comedy with all of just like the dynamic between Geralt and Dandelion, and then facing down this devil that's just like fucking with them. It's just a fun tale, and it's a nice change. Like you got like these really heavy things surrounding it, right? I realized we just like blew past the question of price. How did that happen? Jaskier is his Polish name? I don't remember which I heard first. I just remember being surprised when I heard his other name. I think Jaskier is his name in more recent translations of the books. Got it. What do they use in the show? Is he in the show? Yeah, I accidentally skipped past all my notes on question of price. I don't know how that happened. Skipped ahead. We can jump back to that. I think I kind of said what I had to say about this one. You know, it's a funny tale, but it's very compelling. This idea of like the humans driving out the elves and then them coming back in, like they don't really know what to do other than to just sort of run on the momentum of past conflict and it's sort of like death drive. They know their days are numbered. They know they're going to starve. They know they'll never like adapt to agriculture and the new ways of the world, and so they'll just continue like eking out this existence. And the final exchange, you know, with Filavandriel and Geralt, like maybe I'll meet you again when we ride down for our final battle, when we're out of options and we decide to just take up arms and ride to our deaths, because it's the only thing we can think to do. The world is huge, repeated the elf. That's true, human. But if you have changed this world. At first, you used force to change it. You treated it as you treat anything that falls into your hands. Now it looks as if the world has started to fit in with you. It's given way to you. It's given in. I love that aspect to it, of like humans taming, warping the world to suit their ends, and the world finally giving in. It's an echo of what we saw earlier with like, now we've got a few extant creatures that used to populate this world that the humans eradicated, and now we treat them as like novelties, as attractions, and they give us a nostalgia for what we destroyed. But we would never actually return to that world. We have grown to accustomed to the conveniences of modern life. But we, deep in our more primal souls, I guess, we have a yearning for it, of what we used to be. An earlier time. Torque spoke the truth, continued Filavandrel. No, Filavandrel. Yes, we are starving. Yes, we are threatened with annihilation. The sun shines differently. The air is different. Water is not as it used to be. The things we used to eat, made use of, are dying, diminishing, deteriorating. We never cultivated the land. Unlike you humans, we never tore at it with hoes and plows. To you, the earth pays a bloody tribute. It bestowed gifts on us. You tear the earth's treasures from it by force. For us, the earth gave birth and blossomed because it loved us. Well, no love lasts forever, but we still want to survive. What is Yennefer's full name in your version of the book? In the PDF I read, it's Yennefer of Vengerberg, but in the games and everywhere else, people talk about her in English. It's Vengerberg? Let's find out. I think I'm ready to move on to that story. But again, this was a great tale. Oh, okay. Let's just highlight that last exchange I was talking about. The last line. Right. Geralt told them, like, when they're bound by the elves and going to be killed, Geralt and Dandelion, he says to the elves that he pities them. He sees the trajectory of their existence. After some consideration, added the side, I've come to the conclusion that you were right when you pitied us. So goodbye. Goodbye until we meet again on the day when we descend into the valleys to die honorably. We'll look out for you then. Toroville and I. Don't let us down. This is like one of my favorite things in literature, like the setup, and if this pays off books down the line, or decades down the line or whatever, but just having these lingering threads out there in this great wide world that we've seen of like, we'll meet again someday, we'll cross swords again someday, we'll maybe be on the other sides of a conflict someday, but for now we'll leave one another be. I think there are a few different translations of the book, so there might be some differences in spelling. So the voice of reason. Let's see, I had one thing I pulled out on this one. Let's see, 244. That's what I thought, Neneki smiled. You see, Geralt, this bright sun of ours is still shining, but not quite the way it used to. Read the great books if you like. But if you don't want to waste time on it, maybe you'll be happy with the explanation that the crystal roof acts like a filter. It eliminates the lethal rays which are increasingly found in sunlight. That's why plants, which you can't see growing wild anywhere in the world, grow here. I think I just pulled that out, like I didn't really know what this means yet. I imagine we'll get more information that would explain that, but are we having some sort of breakdown in this world? But I like this idea. I find it very compelling. I want to hear more. Like I said, this book just drip feeds so many different little ideas, and if you're collecting them and following along with them, you get a sense of like greater events transpiring. But for me, first time reader, I still don't really know what that means. What's degrading? Why? Is there anything that can be done about it? Oh, in this version on stream, Dandelion is Dandelion. In others, it is Dandelion with an I. Got it. Yeah. As far as Yennefer, we're about to find out. So here are the last wish. An amazing closer of a tale. This was a great book. But great story. I loved it. In the games, he's also Dandelion with an E. Gotcha. Anyone have any thoughts on The Last Wish that you want to share? This one was just like, I think the other stories are more like interesting on like philosophical levels. This one was just a ride. I mean, you get lots of interesting lore and like ideas about like how the Jinn function and magic in general with Yennefer, but it's much more like character driven and event driven than some of the earlier tales that were kind of more just like a fairy tale and maybe more based on the theme. You really like Yennefer? Incredible character. Incredible. The way she tricks Geralt, and I love it. It's, you followed him this far and like, oh, he's gotten out of all these situations. Yeah, he's made some regrettable choices maybe with the lesser evil, you know? Like, did he choose the lesser evil? It's up for debate. But you've seen his skill set. You've seen his intelligence and his like detective abilities on full display. You've seen his battle prowess. And then he gets just thoroughly like hoodwinked by this new character, and she is like the best character in the book, probably. Yeah, is she everyone's favorite character? I'm making a vast assumption right now. She's mine. Is Yennefer Bay to you? I guess. I'm old. I don't know what words mean these days, but do I stan Yennefer? Does she have magical riz? I don't know. This is what I need to know. Who's the best girl for Witcher? I mean, she's the only... Like, you could maybe say Renfrey. We had a little something there that could have maybe been something if we hadn't killed her in the street, you know, the next day. But aside from that, like, in this book, it's the only thing you really... Like, you get his scenes with Nenneke and Iola, but that's not really anything. He hasn't played the game, so there are no other girls. Or read later books. Yeah, I only know Yennefer. I only have eyes for Yennefer. And I probably will always... I don't know. If there's someone that comes along that can rival her on, like, the alluring factor, I'm going to be amazed. She's so fucking cool. She's so cool. She tricks Geralt. She tries to capture a Jinn, and like even at the very end when like shit is going wild, like the whole town is getting destroyed, she will not give up. Geralt has to like tear her out of there. She goes hard. It's really cool. I think I highlighted this. I think there was some really nice, just like fun little, just like good writing, like a nice parallelism. Nobody ever found out what the poet was going to make from the Catfishes of Parbles. I think it was like, you get a repeat of this. Nobody ever heard what Dandelion was going to say. Nobody ever found out what was going to happen. And it gives you like this shit, what's the word I'm looking for? It gives you like the sense of, shit's about to hit the fan. Here it is. It's just like a fun sort of humorous way to set you up for that twist or the change of events. No one ever found out Dandelion's third wish. Yeah, that's what it was. I skipped a message. Oh, did I? I really like Yennefer, and then some other thoughts that I can't share until you read the later books. Oh, okay, got it. Yeah, please don't. But I'm looking forward to hearing them someday. Like, she would have succeeded if Dandelion was the one with the wishes. You're correct. I haven't. I just feel like Witcher is a god among men. He's kind of apart from men, not really among men. Shunned away. Too alien to be accepted into their ranks, right? I think I didn't really highlight a whole lot of... I think the problem with this story... There's not a problem with the story. I think I have so much less to talk about is because, like, it was such a page turner. Like, I wasn't really stopping to consider things. I just, like, I gotta read. What's next? What's next? What's next? How are we gonna get out of this situation? Oh my god. Maybe just some good lines here and there. It's almost as though you thought a scorpion were prettier than a spider because it's got such a lovely tail. I think the thing that made me laugh, I don't know. There were a couple moments that really made me laugh. Okay, Vengerberg. Oh, you know what? This is such a fascinating aspect to their relationship, is like Geralt's ability to see... This is an interesting idea that is brought up in this story, where like her magic is that here? You're told about how when a lot of these girls are chosen to be trained and to like hone their innate ability, they're often plucked. They're like often like very unattractive or like have some like either like defect physically and are brought into magic, and then the magic is used to sort of like buff out the more distracting or off-putting elements of their physical appearance. And Geralt is able to see, like he's like able to see something's up, and then eventually he has a revelation like, oh, she was a hunchback, and they used magic to straighten her out and make her more attractive, and he can sort of see through the facade, and he chooses to never like allow her to know that he's able to see that, because she would never forgive him for knowing that about her. You're correct. It's one of the things Renfri and Geralt had in common. Both are monsters, neither by their own choice, though Renfri did choose to lean into being a monster, while Geralt tries sometimes to be more human. Yeah, that's, you know what, that's a great takeaway from that tale. I guess you see the contrast between them. Two people that were just thrust into a life where they have to make these terrible choices, and she has chosen to just survive, and he has chosen to try and find some third way through it where he doesn't have to choose, and then you get the inevitable conflict between them. That's a fascinating one. It really is. So that was what. But I'm wondering, let me read this and maybe I'll remember why I highlighted it. I already knew what you were like, she continued, after exchanging a few words with you in Beau's bedroom, and I knew what form of payment I'd demand from you. My accounts in Rind could be settled by anyone, including Curidan. But you're the one who's going to do it, because you have to pay me for your insolence, for the cold way you look at me, for the eyes which fish for every detail, for your stony face and sarcastic tone of voice, for thinking that you could stand face to face with Yennefer of Vengerberg and believe her to be full of self-admiration and arrogance, a calculating witch while staring at her soapy tits. Pay up, Geralt of Rivia. This is after he's sort of had his wandering eye on her while she's taking a bath, and they're still like discussing shit. I thought there's so many good moments of writing. This is brilliant, and you can almost do like a feminist reading of it if you were going to take it to that sort of literary school of thought, where it's written by a man, focalized through a male character, and you have the male gaze consistently through the book, and you are describing female characters by way of that male gaze narrated to you, and then you have that thrown back in your face by this one incredibly strong, compelling character. It's like, fuck off with your wandering eyes that are searching me, violating me physically, looking for every little detail to dwell on. Who the fuck do you think you are? To Geralt, and then also to us as readers. I thought that was a very brilliant turn. And it's stuff like that, independent of just her character, but like the way the narrative presents her and that like extra textual sort of dimension to it. My gosh, she's so good. Yennefer's so good. What's the full background photo, by the way? I would like to see the cafe. Oh yeah, we can do that. Nope, that's that. Whoop. Wrong Witcher book. I should label things better. How about this Witcher book? Wait. Yeah, there it is. Is this a good place for a book club? This is the... I was looking on like Pexels and Pixabay for free, like royalty-free photography. This was the most compelling setting I found. Oh, I need to bring that back. Whoops. It's cozy. I'm glad. Another typewriter. Always easy way to add a little bit of atmosphere to a place, a little bit of texture. Oh, also, both Geralt and Renfri were taken because of destiny. Geralt, a child of surprise. Renfri, a child of prophecy. Yeah, and you know what? I accidentally skipped the story. Let's loop back to that at least briefly, at the very least, to talk about, because we get that information about him in A Question of Price. Okay, there's one other thing. There's two other things in this story that made me like laugh aloud and were just so fun. One is when the mayor is seeing the town get destroyed. There's another instance of just like funny writing. Left the priest. She's found her match, it seems. It's an exceptionally strong djinn. I really don't know who's got whom. The witch him, or he the witch. It'll end with the djinn grinding her to dust. Very good. Justice will be done. I shit on justice, yelled the mayor, not caring if there are any voters under the window. Just that. Not caring if there are any voters under the window. Very funny line. I shit on justice. Both destined to become monsters, both destined to be hated, feared. The other one that really got me is when they're opening the portals to escape from the djinn. Where was that? Page 297? Like, Geralt pulls her, and they just go flying through into, like, these random places. The portal which led into the unknown. They flew out in a tight embrace, fell onto a marble floor and slid across it, knocking over an enormous candlestick and a table from which crystal goblets, platters of fruit, and a huge bowl of crushed ice, seaweed, and oysters showered down with a crash. Screams and squeals came from around the room. They were lying in the very center of a ballroom, bright with candelabra. Richly clad gentlemen and ladies, sparkling with jewels, had stopped dancing and were watching them in stunned silence. The musicians in the gallery finished their piece in a cacophony which grated on the ears. And then they just start screaming at one another. You moron, Yennefer yelled, trying to scratch out his eyes. You bloody idiot, you stopped me. I nearly had him. You had shit all, he shouted back furious. I saved your life, you stupid witch. And they're just like, it's almost like a MCU, like Marvel movie, kind of like shenanigan. Like you can see just like, I don't know, like a Doctor Strange kind of situation or something. Just like flying out to somewhere in the multiverse and crashing into this dinner party or whatever. Oysters flying. And just like mid-argument screaming and like the bands looking at each other. And they just like fly out through another portal. And that's in the midst of this like very serious, destructive scene with the djinn like destroying the town as he tries to escape bondage by Yennefer's spell. Great. Just very fun. And then that all like transpires and they get back and, you know, all is well. And it ends in the only way that kind of... with like Geralt and Yennefer, the only way it can. The setup. They bone down. They bone down in the wreckage of the djinn and what it's done. And it's really hot. I love how Geralt is sensibly wary of teleportation. Yeah, you get his reluctance. Like, I know that this can go awry. Like, people, like half of them get transported and half does not, or they end up in some random far-flung nowhere or whatever. I do quite love the relationship. It's so good. Yep. It's fiery. Anyone have any other things on this tale? If not, maybe loop back to Question of Price real quick. Didn't mean to end here, but we got to like, this was another wonderful, like this was the more like, if you had to pull out a single one of these tales to be like just a single satisfying fairy tale, like self-contained short story, I think this would be it. It's just so nicely wrapped up and like encapsulates what it's about within itself without needing any of the, I mean, really none of these tales need the things around them, but they benefit from the lore and the ideas and the events of those other tales in part. But this one just like works on its own. So the synopsis of this one real quick for anyone who didn't read, or for those who did and just need a refresher. Ads, I think you gotta fuck off. You're supposed to be here in 2.5 minutes, because we're about to, I think 2 hours is enough to talk book, but I'll open it up for final thoughts and we'll pick the next book. So anyone who read the book, honor system, if you read it, you get to propose the next book we read for May, and we will spin the wheel right here and now and decide what we're reading next. So start thinking if you want to take 5 minutes to think about what you want to suggest for the next book club book. Where was that? A question of price. In A Question of Price, Geralt is summoned to a banquet being held by the Queen Calanth in honor of her daughter, Pavetta. Calanth wants Geralt to ensure that Pavetta marries a man from Skellig to form a political alliance. The banquet is interrupted by Urchion of Erenwald, who looks like a monster. Urchion explains that he and Pavetta are destined to be wed because of an oath. Calanth leaves the decision to Pavetta, who agrees to marry Urchion. The other suitors attack Urchion. During the battle, Pavetta taps into the Force and lashes out telepathically. Geralt and another guest subdue Pavetta. Calanth allows Pavetta and Urchion to marry, which breaks the curse that made him look monstrous. Then Calanth marries one of the warriors from Skellig and secures the alliance. It's just, I mentioned before, it almost verges on the saccharine of being like such a happy fairy tale ending, but because it is surrounded by tales that are not, it doesn't end up feeling that way, and it leaves like this lingering idea of like Geralt demanding that oh shoot, I'm blanking. What is the oath? The promise to be that which was it's like that which was unexpected, but or that which was not expected but given, or I'm fucking it up. You know what I'm talking about? Where was it? You'll give me that which you already have but do not know. That's how they phrase it. I'll return to Cintra in 6 years to see if destiny has been kind to me. Yeah, I think this one deals with like the most with things in terms of like destiny and some of the ideas that y'all were bringing up earlier in the stream today. Because of the misunderstanding about who has the wishes, Geralt is once again forced to bind his destiny to someone else. Well, he didn't have to, but he had to make a wish. Oh, snooze. If he wanted to save Yennefer. Right. I love that it doesn't really tell you what the wishes are, right? Well, it tells you without really explicitly saying. Like, you don't get Geralt saying what his wish was. You just know, like, he's now bound to Yennefer. Because the Djinn can't destroy the person who holds the wishes, right? So by like wishing for his own well-being or tying his fate to Yennefer's, like he not inadvertently because it's on purpose, but he saves her by virtue of saving himself. And then the funny turn of like, we don't really know what his first wish was, and it's because he said the one like temple invocation or whatever, and he doesn't know what it means until the priest is like, what did you just say to me? And it's something like fuck off and like really graphic language. And so that's why the Djinn just like flies out of there at the beginning. That delayed punchline is so good because you don't know why the Djinn just like flies out of there in that first interaction. Like Geralt said something, and then you find out like, oh, he treated it as a wish because the wish is like, I wish you would fuck off. So it's so good. Do you have things to say about the story, but you can't until I read the other books? Okay, I'm gonna get on it. I don't know. I love this story as well. It was another one like where we had Snow White and Renfri's story, and now we have Cinderella here. We mentioned Cinderella. We mentioned like the slipper in here too, and just like the fun ties to like pre-existing fairy tales. But you get some great background on Geralt in the midst of this. Again, just really great self-contained tale, which has a lot of tension in this banquet scene. Like, as everyone sort of like reveals their cards, and we get to know like the king promised the princess to this guy, this random guy, this monstrous guy, turns into a monster for a portion of every day. And the queen wanting to not make good on that oath and think about her own interests and that of her kingdom and have like a more political alliance with her daughter's marriage and all of these forces at work, and you don't really know how it's going to shake out. And it is a moment of like everyone's the wrong move, the wrong word, anything in this moment is a powder keg and it could really explode. It's a great scene. The Last Wish, story not book, and A Question of Price are both pretty important to later books. They establish a lot of things, characters, etc. Question of Price spends a lot of time on setting up kingdoms, politics, etc. That's true too, yeah. And The Last Wish obviously sets up Yennefer, right? Yeah, that's the thing about this tale. Like, you get a lot of, you get to meet representatives from various kingdoms, and you get a greater sense of the politics of this world and how the kingdoms align or are at odds with one another. In the midst of, it's all contextualized and like it's just place setting for this much more compelling momentary conflict, and that's why it's so good. It's not just like some fantasy books make the mistake of just like hitting you with a lot of exposition, like we want the reader to understand this world, so here it is. In this book, at no point I felt like it ever did that. It was always contained within a momentary interaction or an event that gave me just enough lore that I needed to understand the stakes, and then carry that forward until I get my next little dose. But it was never overwhelming. It was always within something exciting or interesting, like on its own merits, aside from just telling me more about the world for the sake of explaining it. Wonderful. I love this book. I really did. One of my favorite, I think it's the best book I've read thus far this year. One of my favorite in recent memory. Any final, like, conclusive or just anything on The Last Wish? Stream today might not be very long after this. We're going to play some video games, but I might be talked out. Wow. That was a lot of me reading. And if not, anyone who read the book, drop your recommendation or your request, your choice for next month's book. I can't believe you're going to read 8 books before you play the games. I mean, we'll see. That's the plan right now, but thankfully it's like I can't play those games for a couple months anyway. I have all of your guys' game requests queued up. We're playing Metal Gear. We're playing Death Stranding. You know, we're going to do some Armored Core stuff because it's going to be the start of my 3rd year. It's going to be my 2-year anniversary as affiliate. We're going to snooze again. In a couple months here. That's coming up soon. I want to do some Armored Core stuff to celebrate. Play some Armored Core games I have not played before. Maybe go back to 1st gen. I don't know. I'm thinking about a couple different fun ideas. But we got that coming up. Yeah. So I got time to fit in 7 books. I really like it has it set up before playing the games. I think personally I like this book the most. Really? Okay. It has the benefit of, like, if you didn't really care for a certain story, maybe you'll like the next one. And they're all very different. There's a great range of ideas and types of stories in this collection. And since it's not one, like, evolving novel, it can jump around a lot like that. So that's a nice part of it. The 2018 and 2025 books are not relevant to the games, but I'm sure they are worth reading. If you do read them, then there are 10 books. I'm more concerned about, like, I love this so much. I've said it before. I don't want to spoil myself on anything that's coming my way in the books by playing the games. So I'm going to try and preserve that experience for myself if I can, even though I really want to play the games some more. So, what do y'all want to read next month? I'll make a wheel real quick. And if you don't tell me, I'm just going to choose. It's crazy that you just magically ignored the spoilers in The Witcher 1. Are you surprised by that? Are you surprised by my ability to have not noticed something right in front of me? They said the same thing like 5 times. Have you not seen me ignore or just fail to notice things 5 times? I'm torn between Bram Stoker's Dracula, Blood Meridian, and Gotrek and Felix. Okay, well, if you're torn and you want a nudge in the right direction, I love Dracula. I've read Dracula. Have you ever read Dracula? I haven't read the other 2. So if Streamer gets to, I don't know, nudge you in one direction, I would nudge you towards the 2 books that I haven't read. Although it would be fun to reread Dracula. I have the book on my bookshelf behind me. Have you read it, though? Or would it be a first time? I think I've read it for preparing a Curse of Strahd D&D campaign. Oh, really? Okay. You should read this collection of short stories called Sword of Destiny. Wait, that's the book I just started reading, right? Yeah, that's the second Witcher book. Yeah, I was like, wait, you're talking about the same one I'm talking about, right? I mean, so the three things I was gonna think about if no one else read the book, my three choices would be just reading the next Witcher book. That might be pushing it, though. Silent Shelf's Richard Brodigan pick, which I've been trying to get to, or just go back and start rereading the Book of the New Sun, because Ellie talking about it just makes me want to reread it. I read one of the stories in that book. Do you want to suggest that? You get to choose a book. You read the book. Those are the rules. Sort of sacrifice. Sword of Destiny. You want to make that your pick? I was looking at the chapter list and I'm tired. Combine two names. Yeah, you're at about 24 hours, right? No? I'm gonna take that break, I guess, since the ads are here and I can't snooze them any longer. Y'all can think. When I come back, we'll spin the wheel. So think about your picks. And I'll be back to spin for them. See y'all in just a minute. Thanks everybody for hanging around. What video games are you playing? I'm gonna play some Draken. Since we gotta do the jank. You know, we did the wheel twice now, so we got Coelacanth's Draken, and I think Tuesday we're gonna do the Mafia switch. But I'm not gonna play all 5 hours of Draken. I really feel the fatigue doing book club for 2 hours. But maybe do like an hour or two of Draken. I also want to get outside. I'm gonna get some cycling in. It's glorious. It's a beautiful day. So I'm gonna get out and enjoy nature this afternoon. So yeah, stay awake, or I mean, you can, if you want to hang out for a little bit of Draken, if you have any desire to see Draken. But that's all. That's the only thing I have on the agenda for today, post book club. But sleep might be the right choice. 24 hours is a lot. Calendar fact: there's a traffic jam in Beijing that lasted over 9 days. Oh my god. Wow. That checks out though. I got to know the traffic of some of those places quite well, and wow, I would never drive. I'd never drive there. Scary. I finished the song I was working on during your book club. Hell yeah. Congrats. All right, final call for books. What are we doing? What are we doing? You're not going to let the streamer choose the second book, are you? Are y'all about to let me do that? I wouldn't mind. I'm looking at it. The Shadow of the Torturer. It'd be so easy. Would love to reread it. It's been like over 10 years. Are we reading Gene Wolfe? Dracula? You going Dracula? All right. An epistolary novel. Anything to... What? Okay, there we go. It's a great book. And the nice thing about Dracula is that's just free for anyone who wants to read it. Right? That's in the public domain, I'm pretty sure. I think we should dedicate the whole book club to Witcher books. Is that your pick? You can make that your pick. You can make that try and happen. It's the moment to choose. You have to choose. You can't wash your hands of it. What's the lesser evil? You can't get out the situation. My pick is Sword of Destiny. The collection, not the story. Okay. Okay, and now for this next one, I will defer to whatever you all think. I read the book. Do I get a pick or not? Do you think should I get a pick to put on the wheel or not? I will abide by everyone's decision. Does streamer get to pick again? Like throw one on there? I think so. You think that's, yeah? I didn't know, like, if I had my book chosen, should I take the next month off to increase the chance for other people having their books chosen? But, I mean, I'm not going to say no if you think I should get a pick. Should we make it more interesting with 3 picks? Mr. Red Eye, what do you think? We'll make this a democracy. Anyone who read the book can also vote. Streamer pick or no streamer pick on the wheel? Variety is the spice of life. I like it. I think anyone who should be allowed to add a book. Anyone, even if they didn't read. I did think about that. Like, part of me was like, if someone doesn't read, but I want to incentivize them to join us next time. Well, if they get their book chosen, they would be incentivized to do so, wouldn't they? But then I also wanted to reward people like, well, if you read the book, there's a perk for that. We shouldn't punish people for not liking a book. That's a good point. I'm not trying to... I didn't mean it as a punishment, to be clear. I wanted it to be an incentive to read, a positive incentive to do your homework, to do your reading homework. We want to reward the good students who went the extra mile and read the whole book, you know? But maybe there's another way we can incentivize that. I don't know. Should we just be... Could it be anyone who's hanging out at the end of the book club stream? Then? See, Ellie read... a decent portion of the book. I'm trying to think who was in here today that said they read some. Tricky read some of the book. Should she get a pick, or is partial not good enough? Tricky? Sorry, who are you referring to? My brain is dead. That's another internet person. Silent Shelf? Yeah, Silent Shelf. Do you want to throw a book on the wheel? Is that how y'all want to do it? I'm cool with that. I mean, the whole idea is this is a community thing. I don't want to just like make all the rules or whatever. That sounds good to me. It really was about what y'all want to do. Silent Shelf, what's I don't need to pick. You know what mine would be already. Is it the Richard Brodigan? Is it Watermelon? Or would you want to read something else? Since you already read that. Oh, also, I listened to that song. You sent the link that it's now a song. I hope I like the book more than I like the song. That's all I can say. Yeah, let's put it on there. Okay, Watermelon Sugar. Okay, Ellie, are you still hanging out? Because Ellie also read a good portion of this book. I guess if I put the Shadow of the Torture on there, like, I don't want to speak for Ellie. She's not still in here, but has been reading those books, so it's kind of already set up for success to at least talk about it. I should definitely sleep. I'm mixing up book names, people names. I almost sent a big message about something from Story Destiny, the story, before realizing that is a story I read years ago and would be spoilers here. It sounds like it's time for bed. If you can hang on for 30 seconds, I can let you know whether your book gets chosen. Let's do The Shadow of the Torturer. That's 4 books on the wheel. Let's get that on screen. So, up for potential reading in the month of May. Witcher, Sword of Destiny. Dracula. Shadow of the Torturer, the first book in the Book of the New Sun series by Gene Wolfe. And Richard Brautigan's Watermelon Sugar. It's in Watermelon Sugar if it matters. It does matter. It matters. Sorry, I didn't know that. I'm referencing. We're gonna listen to the song by Harry Styles. Is that what it was? The 2019 pop song. It's a book club where we're just gonna talk about that song for 2 hours. You'll have all month to listen to it. No excuses. All right. I'll be clear about next time, like, anyone can pick a book. But for today, I guess we're going to choose between these 4. What are we getting? Let's find out. Richard has it. In Watermelon Sugar by Richard Brautigan is our book for May. Yay! Well done, everybody. Cool. And it's a shorter book. Which sounds great, because I actually have to read some stuff for the podcast. And I'm compelled to keep reading The Witcher. So, since we're going to be juggling multiple books, I'm excited about this one. I almost chose it myself, but I am so newly wanting to reread the Book of the New Sun because Ellie's been going through it, and I want to talk about it, and I've forgotten so much because it's been so long. Yeah, it's short. I think it's accessible for anyone without lots of time. Hell yeah. So we will reconvene a month from now. I'll send out something in the Discord server. We got a channel for book club stuff, and we'll talk about that next month, and then have another chance at Dracula, or, you know, if you want to switch it up for June, whatever everyone's choices are. Thank you, everybody who came to talk books today. This has been, I really had a good time doing this. It's good. I miss this, you know. I was an English major. I used to get daily doses of this. In fact, you might say I got overdoses of this, reading and discussing with my peers. But I think it's good to have these communal experiences where we can, after the fact, discuss our takeaways. It really, I get so much more out of a reading experience having this on the back end of it. It might even be considered a novella. Okay, cool. I need to find a PDF for that book. In Watermelon Sugar. I have no books, or every book. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go look into to see how I can read it. But again, thank you everybody who came to the book club. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just gonna switch over to Draken for a little while, but I think it might not be too long, to be honest. It's already noon. I'm already getting hungry, and like I said, I want to get outside. But we're gonna play a little bit. It might just be me trying to learn how to play this game. I looked. There's like several manuals. I love this kind of stream. Do you? I appreciate that. Thanks for coming to help make it what it was. I used to have tons of books. They stressed me out. Now I have no books. That seems more freeing. would welcome more, well, we'll be doing it every month. If you want to read along next time, feel free. If not, you just want to come hang out and listen to us talk about the book, that's cool too. All are welcome. But I want this to be a continuing monthly thing. And actually, I will actually do this. I've said that about my art streams, and that kind of falls off because that's all relying on me. When I have people depending on me, like, oh, they read the book, I better show up and do this thing. You know, there's that additional stress. Not stress, but you know what I mean. I'm being held accountable. Left to my own devices. Well, you know me. Draken will test your love of Jank to the extreme. Great stream, yes, hell yeah. All right, I will be right back. I'm just gonna kind of go away while I'm setting up game and all that. So like a minute or two. See y'all then for Draken.